Hey there guys, this is Hayden from Neutron Insight, and today I'm bringing you a review of Hunt Showdown. So, Hunt Showdown has been developed by Crytek. They're responsible for developing the Crisis series, which are games that are best known for how they look rather than how they play, at least for the most part. But this is a bit of a departure from that for Crytek, and this is actually their foray into the Battle Royale genre. When I say Battle Royale, naturally that's a bit of a turn-off for a lot of people nowadays in such a saturated market, but it is rather unique, and I think you should have a quick listen to this review and see if it's up your alley or not. But basically, the idea behind this is that 4 teams of 3 are dropped into a PvPvE map, and the goal is to either find one of 2 demonic bosses, kill them, and then extract to one of 3 extraction locations. To illustrate this, I've captured some gameplay in the background to show this off as much as possible. So without any further ado, let's get straight into the review, and I'm going to start by how this game looks by looking at the graphics and more specifically the art style. So with the art style, it's completely unique given that the game is set in the late 19th century, and that term unique, you're going to hear me utter it an awful lot through this review, and that's because there are all of these elements that, like I said, have that uniqueness to it that really comes together to make this game really stand out in that crowded field in the Battle Royale genre. When you couple that with a demonic element that kind of feeds through the atmosphere of the game, it really does help to build that eerie and creepiness as you continue to just play through the game, whether or not you're in a firefight or whether or not you're just hiking through the fields with your team to the next objective. And what really helps with this as well is that it's just completely faithful to the time period, buildings, weapons, attire. It's all here, and it's that kind of attention to detail that really lends itself to the atmosphere of the game overall. It's extremely well done, and when you bear in mind that this is a Battle Royale game, it's a competitive shooter, that's pretty tough to pull off in a single player game, let alone a multiplayer game. So I think what Crytek have done here is actually quite remarkable, and it does go to show the talent of that team beyond, like I said, the Crisis series, which is more better known for just how it looks rather than how it feels or how it plays. Speaking of how the game looks technically, of course, this is coming from Crytek. It's coming from that team that obviously uses the CryEngine day in, day out, and we know that a fully leveraged CryEngine at this point, just how good that can actually look. So at its higher settings, the game does look graphically outstanding. As you drop the settings back, yep, you do lose some of the pop as soon as you hit around about those medium settings that you would normally receive from the environments, but that being said, it still looks great, and you do get a better trade-off there in terms of FPS versus how good the game looks. So I would say that most people are probably going to play this game at around that medium setting. If you do drop it any lower than this, however, you really do lose quite a lot of detail, especially in the textures. I mean, even the ground that you're running across, you'll immediately notice how much flatter it looks. Lighting doesn't take much of a hit, thankfully, but the rest of it kind of looks a generation older at that point. So I think the sweet spot here, if you can do it, is to play it at medium. If you have something like a 2080 Ti, then by all means crank it all the way up. One of my friends has a 2080 Ti, and he plays it on maximum, and he gets excellent frame rates across the board while still looking absolutely phenomenal. So now, however, we're going to have a look at the crown jewel of this game, in my opinion, and that's the audio. I'm going to start by looking at the music, because as far as that's concerned, there's not an awful lot to speak about here, though the main menu theme is quite catchy. There's some hidden music in the game world as well, through interactable objects that are a nice touch, and also kind of add to the atmosphere. It can be a little bit creepy, actually, at times, but other than that, the music in the game, it serves its purpose ultimately, but there's not a lot to talk about there. No, the sound effects is the real crown jewel of this game. So the developers have used this binaural audio technique that, when coupled with the incredible array of environmental effects, it really does make the game sound phenomenal. Something special, to tell you the truth. I've played a fair bunch of multiplayer games over the last few years, and sound isn't one of those things that really comes to the mind when you're looking at a dedicated multiplayer game, but I can say by far that Hunt Showdown has the best sound design in any multiplayer game that I have ever played. It is just that good. It rivals some of the best single player games as well, for that matter. A lot of games could learn so much from the audio implementation in Hunt Showdown that, yeah, everybody should largely be adopting the techniques that Crytek have used here and 100% learn from it. So let's move on from the technical side of the game now, and let's start talking about the gameplay. So we have 2 modes with Hunt. you've got the traditional hunt mode and you've got deathmatch. So the hunt mode is superior. It's largely how the game is meant to be played, as per the title. But deathmatch is a fill-in for those single players that also want to build a little bit of cash, maybe, if they're broke. Although, to tell you the truth, this doesn't happen a lot. Only if you're using those more expensive weapons and you're dying a lot, quite frankly. So, looking at how the game plays itself, it is quite unique due to the weapons. You've got these slow firing rifles, bolt action is the name of the game here, and then you also have some stuff like shotguns, which again are mostly like one shots and reloads, except for those more expensive weapons. And because of that, slow and accurate playstyles are very much rewarded in this game. It can be quite tactical, and everyone does tend to play in that respect because of that. If you're just running around the map, hoping to just kill a bunch of players, be quite loud about it, then chances are you're going to get picked off and you're not going to be able to extract and you're going to lose that hunter. There's no real fast-firing weapon in the game, outside of the extremely expensive ones, and these just largely aren't sustainable. So yeah, in a nutshell, the gameplay, it's unique. You look at something like Fortnite, and obviously it doesn't go anywhere near that, that's far more arcadey. And then you look at something like PUBG, which if you were going to look at a spectrum of Battle Royale games, you would have Fortnite down that very end of most accessible, most arcadey, just can pick up and play, anyone can do that. PUBG kind of sits somewhere in the middle of that and Hunt, where it does require some familiarity to learn weapons, learn the maps, learn the best locations, etc. Whereas Hunt is on the other side of the spectrum, where you need to do all of those things in PUBG, except you need to also take into consideration how slow firing your weapons are, for example, how the environment works against you because of that PvE element. And yeah, it is, and I'm using that word again, there is a complete uniqueness to it. It's very hardcore, it's very difficult, but ultimately it is extremely interesting. And for me, in terms of the Battle Royale genre, it is by far the most interesting one that I have played by a long shot. So with all that said and done then, how replayable is the game? So obviously being a multiplayer game, it inherently has that advantage with its replayability. It can be played over and over again, and it depends how bored you get of it, basically. But ultimately, from a progression perspective, which is what games like this do tend to rely on, I feel like this is where the game lacks a little bit. So there's 100 levels in total, and getting there provides a good progression curve, and then you have the option to prestige when you do hit level 100. So as of right now, prestiging most certainly doesn't feel like it's worth the effort. You unlock some skins at certain prestige levels, so I believe it's level 1. You get a skin, prestige level, let's say 10, you get a skin, 25, 50, and 100. Those are the only times you actually get rewarded for prestiging. And now bearing in mind that to reach level 100 in each of those prestiges, if you're an average player like myself and like most other people who will play the game, it's probably going to take you around about 40 hours. So on that note then, really, I guess that prestiging most certainly doesn't feel worth it right now. So yeah, I would say that if there is a part of the game that does need some work, it is 100% that side of it. And then I think that this game will go from what I'm about to rate it in a few moments time to the next level, basically. So off the back of that then, do you actually get good value for your purchase here? I would say, honestly, absolutely. I think there is a lot of game here. I think it's extremely well crafted. And I think definitely it's well worth the asking price, full price on Steam right now. But there are microtransactions in the game. These things are called blood bonds. And they allow you to buy character and weapon skins for the most part, with functionality to also allow you to buy some character slots. I'm kind of okay with this, to tell you the truth. It doesn't affect gameplay in any way, so I'm quite happy with how the microtransactions work in the game. And like I said, as a whole, in terms of value for money, yeah, it's definitely worth full price. So let's go over some PC specifics then before we hit that final verdict. I don't really need to tell you the truth, given that this game is only on the PC right now, so naturally it was developed for the PC, but I'll go through the key points anyway. Optimization, does it run okay? Yep, I would say that the game runs decently, but the amount of detail in the environments and the physics-based objects certainly does take its toll on your hardware. It feels like a game that would benefit greatly from APIs such as DirectX 12 being used here. I could be right, I could be wrong with that. It all depends on how the CryEngine typically works with it, and I don't know if any games do use that right now. But yeah, I would say that that would be certainly to its advantage. But as for how it runs right now, yeah, it runs decently enough. Field of view, this is customizable to a decent range, so no issues here at all. Aspect ratio, so I use a 21:9 monitor. It absolutely supports this, and it also supports other niche ratios as well, such as 4:3. So yeah, I think that's all good from that perspective. And then keyboard and mouse support, obviously it's exclusive to the PC, so it was built with that in mind, and yeah, no issues there at all. So now we come to my final score and verdict, and I'll get started by providing the score. To me, Hunt Showdown definitely deserves a 9 out of 10. It's completely unique in a saturated Battle Royale market, and Hunt is, in my opinion, a change of pace, and also very much a breath of fresh air. It looks great, it sounds even better, and is, in my opinion, by far, Crytek's best game to date. Thanks a lot for tuning in today, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, feel free to leave a like on the YouTube channel, and also subscribe if you want to see any further videos. Up at the top left, I will be putting a playlist towards other reviews that have taken place in 2020. If you're interested in reviewing that, please do so. And yeah, thank you very much for joining me, guys, and I hope you join me next time for my next review.